Shawn Levy's Star Wars movie begins filming in a few months, and now we have a second cast member officially joining Star Wars Starfighter. And we're going to talk all about that and more right here on the Resistance broadcast. So welcome, everybody. I'm John. Thank you for joining us. Lacey with me, as always. How we doing, Lacey?
Good. How are you? I'm so hyped that we're getting Star Wars news. I didn't think we would
Yes.
get it this quickly, but as things are heating up and this movie is supposed to film this fall, I can imagine in the next, especially with San Diego Comic-Con coming up, and I believe there's a D23 this year, we're probably going to get more announcements of what the plan is with this movie and beyond, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah, I think Mandalorian and Grogu, who knows when they're going to start the hype on that. It's still probably a little too early, but there may be bits and pieces that come out, like you say, about that. And then as production begins on this, there's going to be whispers and rumblings, and then things get leaked to the trades, and they say this person's in this movie, and it goes like that. And then we talk about it, and we have the latest
Yeah.
version here that we'll get to in a minute about a story we talked about recently regarding Mikey Madison being in talks for a role and then it not working out, and how this will connect with it. But before we get into that, however you're listening to the show, or if you're watching on YouTube, we just want to say thank you very much. It is always a good time to be a Star Wars fan. Now we're just right off the heels of Andor. We had a really positive State of Star Wars discussion last week, and now we look ahead to movies, and of course Ahsoka also coming. So 2026 is going to be just a giant year for Star Wars. So thanks for being with us on the Resistance broadcast. Make sure you're subscribed to the show on your favorite podcast app. That's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Amazon, Podbean, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts. It's free to follow and listen to us there, and tell your friends. And then of course TRB podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/@TRB podcast. You can subscribe to us free there as well. And last but not least, because Lacey will cover our Patreon in a little bit, trbpodcast.com, our new store. We have new merch coming. The K2S show stuff has been locked in the vault. Who knows if that comes back out, but we have some really fun and cool new designs coming. If you were at Star Wars Celebration, some of you may have seen a sneak peek of what some of those designs are going to be, but we are very excited. So check out trbpodcast.com, and you can also access the podcast there as well. But Lacey, anything you want to bring up before we get into the news?
Not really. I'm just really excited to have news.
Me too. So let's fire it up.
It's the Resistance.
Okay, so Mia Goth is joining the Star Wars galaxy, and she is reportedly playing the villain opposite of the protagonist played by Ryan Gosling in Shawn Levy's Star Wars Starfighter, which is coming out in 2 years, May of 2027. Now, Lacey, I alluded to it at the top. We had talked about that story that Mikey Madison was in talks for a villain role in, did they say villain even? I think they did, right?
They did. Yeah.
So, and we sort of talked about the type of villain she had played previously and maybe what they're looking for. And then
you had said we have to have a female villain going into a new movie or series. So you called that one. It's definitely a female.
It's time. Yeah, it's time. And that's where I sort of wanted to start, but I'm going to throw it at you because I'll say this. I don't know that I've seen any movies that Mia Goth is in, to be honest. I know she does a lot of horror, right? I haven't really dialed into her yet. So, and I know she's getting a lot of buzz and she gets a lot of praise and people love her performances, but I haven't experienced it yet. So I have to do some research now that this news came out and see what she's all about on screen. But have you seen any of her movies, and what is your initial thoughts on this news and this story, which I believe started with Jeff Snyder, who said not only is she in it, she's going to be a villain, and that the person Ryan Gosling is supposed to be protecting is his nephew, I believe. And then Hollywood Reporter and Variety sprinkled stuff on top of it. But what are your takes initially on this news? And do you know, are you familiar with Mia Goth beyond social media and the zeitgeist?
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched her movies. I only know her from social media because people love her so much that she's all over
Yeah.
social media with her crazy, hectic horror scenes and very dramatic crying, screaming scenes that people really like using her. Also on the red carpet, her funny reactions to questions. People use them a lot for social media memes and reaction videos and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that. That being said, this is not surprising to me based on what people know her for and the clips that I've seen her in, that she's playing a villain. I mean, she plays the bad guy in like horror movies and stuff, so it makes sense. Coming off of that kind of rumor story last week with Mikey Madison, where you had actually said, John, you're like, she always from the Scream franchise, etc., played these big kind of dramatic, over the top roles, screaming, yelling, carrying on villainesque behavior. Uh, Mia's right in that lane. Like every shot or scene that I've seen her in, it's over the top. Like it's not these kind of subtle, kind of creepy moments. They're like she's going for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not surprised that she's kind of stepping in where Mikey was like, "Nah, I'm good," and passed. Um, she also has obviously a little bit less star power than Mikey Madison, just because Mikey Madison's coming off an Oscar, a lot of acclaim that way, whereas Mia's got more fan favorite horror scene stuff. Like she's a big person with the horror side of fans and side of film. So this could be a big jump for her into more of a pop culture general fan space, pun intended,
Yeah.
to be a big star in Star Wars. She's also, we're talking about billing, which we were talking about last week with Mikey Madison, where she is kind of at a level of Ryan Gosling in the sense of like acclaim. So that's why they said she turned down for payment, or like, hey, she wasn't getting enough money. So she's like, no, I'm not getting what I want. First of all, good for her. Second of all, Mia is someone that could provide an explosive, over the top, awesome villain performance, but is lesser known, so she doesn't outshine Ryan Gosling right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not saying Ryan Gosling is that way, but let's be honest, agents fight for their clients, and I'm sure the agent was like, "Look, I don't want Mikey Madison being the paid or billing equal to Ryan Gosling." Um, but yeah, I don't know her other than that. Like the scenes of her with like, when she have like an axe and she's crying on stage when she's like in some play and stuff, like just over the top stuff.
Yeah, I
Um,
gotta check out her stuff for sure.
yeah, me too. I gotta get a little bit more well known, which I'm dipping toes into horror now. I've watched more horror stuff than I ever have. I'm pretty proud of myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
saw that they actually just finished, or either started or finished wrapping the second Ready or Not movie, which I'm pretty
Oh
happy
yeah.
about. But as for the other piece of this, it's a little surprising that they're recycling the, "Hey, we have to bring someone to this safe location" theme with Star Wars. I did laugh a little bit. We have inverse.com referenced in our notes talking about where they like break down all the details from Jeff. But one of the things they had mentioned, which we talked about as well, which is like, okay, if the rumor is that he has a nephew and he's protecting the nephew and he's being chased by villains, then it must mean that this kid is probably force sensitive because it's Star Wars. And like we're putting two and two together. And if that's the case, then you have this storyline in The Mandalorian, in The Phantom Menace, in Obi-Wan Kenobi, in all these other projects. And it's like, how many times are we going to see the same story? But at the same time, we see this across multiple franchises and multiple movies, that you have a kid or a baby or an animal that needs to be protected. I mean, John, you were just saying that we're gonna watch last week Legend of Ochi. Isn't that the same premise? It's like, oh, we got to protect the little baby. Um,
Essentially, yeah.
yeah. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel like, okay, not surprising. All right. but I'm going to pump the brakes on expectations because I don't even know what we're gonna get.
Well, first of all, I'm excited that we are getting a female villain, and I do think
Yes.
that she's going to be the lead villain of this movie. I saw in the article them alluding to she's going to be one of these pursuers, and I don't think she's going to be part of this collective. I think she's going to be the main baddie of the film, and maybe she'll have people working under her that are agents, or maybe she hires bounty hunters. We don't know what the universe, not universe, we don't know what the galaxy looks like. That's
Yeah,
the
where
most
they're at.
exciting part. Well, like,
Yeah.
are we going to see, because it's still very fresh post First and Final Order, are we going to see even more standout remnants of the First Order, the way we saw remnants of the Empire 30 years later in The Force Awakens, or even 9 years when we see the Stormtrooper helmets on spikes in The Mandalorian? We're going to probably see a decent landscape of fallen First Order in this movie, and they're probably going to play that into the scenery. And I say that just with the open excitement that I've been talking about this blank canvas that they have to operate with post Episode 9, which is such treasured space, because whatever they're doing now is starting this new path, and there's going to then be stuff in between that and Rise of Skywalker, and as they move the ball down the road. But I like that they have the female villain here, and like I said, I think she is going to be the lead female villain. And sort of echoing what you're saying about star power and star status, she's right in that perfect area where she's not a big star, but people know her. Sort of like a Felicity Jones was for Rogue One. So that when they watch Rogue One, they're seeing Jyn Erso and they're not seeing Anne Hathaway. And Star Wars does bring big stars in, and they're doing that with Ryan Gosling. But with the villain here, as long as you get one of them not being like if it was like, who's the biggest female star right now today? Like if it was Margot Robbie, just for the sake of the Barbie thing. Yeah, versus Ryan Gosling, it'd be like, ooh, this is a little too marquee here. I like that we're going to be able to,
I guess.
Yeah. I like that we're going to be able to get lost in this villain, and who knows, maybe she'll be an alien. Will she be full prosthetic? We don't know. So on the surface, I just like it because I know that she does have a very underground support as an artist and as an actor. And I love the idea of seeing what she could bring to Star Wars, and I'm excited to maybe check out more of her villainous roles to see what she could bring to the table, because clearly they like what she did as a villain if she's coming in to play a villain here. But yeah, and then the nephew thing, like you and I did joke about it a bit a week or two ago. I'm fine with it as long as it's a good story and I believe the character's connection, and because like George Lucas said, it's like poetry, it rhymes. Like he pretty much took his own blueprint and did it again for the prequels. So who are we to say like too much of the blueprint? And it may be unique enough in its own way in terms of the type of characters and stuff where, yeah, you have this basic template, but if it feels like a very different and completely organic story. So, but then on top of that, Lacey, we have Inverse, who took a lot of these beats from Snyder, from Variety, Hollywood Reporter, and suggested, is it possible then, because this child who he's protecting is being pursued by these unknown evil agents, is this person force sensitive? And does this mean this 5-6 years later at the Rise of Skywalker, does this mean this kid is a force sensitive person who's eventually going to be important, going to be involved with Rey's Jedi Order? Because the last we heard, Lacey, they did say the Rey New Jedi Order movie was 15 years after Rise of Skywalker, which would put that about 9 to 10 years after this movie, which means if that timeline is still happening, we're not sure. We don't know what's going on with the Rey movie.
Yeah, we really don't know what's going on with the Rey movie.
For argument's sake, if that is still holding, that would put, if this kid is indeed 12 years old, put that kid around 21, 22 years old. We're talking Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith age Anakin. And if he is force sensitive, then do we have our new sort of Anakin type? So there's so many variables now and so many moving parts. And as we learn more about the future of Star Wars movies and whether they're going to connect them, it's all speculation at this point. But what are your thoughts on just the potential of them going that route where, yes, this is a standalone movie, but it may set up or springboard something else?
I mean, it is interesting. The rumor is that characters from the sequel trilogy will show up, but I don't think they ever specified that it would be Rey.
Right.
I think the assumption, because Rey's having her own movie, that if they're doing the whole Marvel, Star Wars interconnected, everything leads into the next thing, that it's completely understandable that someone would be like, well, how does this relate to Rey? Where is this going with Rey? Which then leads to the force sensitive, I guess, assumption or comments or theories.
Right.
But I do find it interesting that they've specified that it isn't featuring Rey. Rey is not in this movie. They've said it out loud. So they could mention her but not have her in it. However, I know that a lot of the rumors, which of course Sean Levy at Celebration said some of them are true and some of them aren't. The rumors are that it's going to feature sequel trilogy characters. So I'm about to throw something kind of bananas out there. And I don't know if this is possible, but I'm going to be a little crazy with it. And this is from my own want. What if Mia Goth's villain character is a part of the Knights of Ren? Because we see them, we get glimpses of them. Kylo Ren fights with them, but no one's ever really dead. Could she step in as the leader of the Knights of Ren, and then her band of Knights of Ren, who are tied to the sequel trilogy, will get more of a spotlight in this movie with Sean Levy? You don't think so?
No, it's a great theory. I'm not saying it's not. But I have a feeling that the wound is still not healed for a lot of people.
What do you mean by that? The Knights
Well,
of Ren are sick. What do you mean?
Because I think, at least as of today, I still see people who consider themselves to be positive Star Wars fans just totally trashing The Rise of Skywalker. So in
To be
public
fair, there are things
opinion,
I don't like about Rise of Skywalker. C-3PO is not one of them, which, by the way, all of a sudden everybody is claiming C-3PO is the best part of Rise of Skywalker. And I was like, we've been saying that for like ever. And now it's like the hot thing everybody's saying. But there are plenty of things I don't like about it being, as you know, the way they handled Ben Solo, but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. Like, it's still
no,
entertaining.
but my point on it is it's still in
Yeah.
public opinion okay to treat that movie like crap, and I don't think Sean Levy is going to be like, yeah, let me bring in the component that disappointed people the most in that sequel trilogy. I think people were really disappointed that the Knights of Ren weren't a bigger thing. I think they were expecting them to be...
was, but then my hope would be that he would take them and then actually use them.
I think that's done. I think, and I'm pretty sure
that gives them, that means nothing was done with them.
But didn't he also kill them all anyway? I feel like he killed them all.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is that I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've watched The Rise of Skywalker. I don't remember if he kills them or just kind of slashes them or like punches them in the face and is like, hey, I'm out of here.
He shot one of them.
I thought he shot different guards. He didn't shoot them. He fought them with a lightsaber.
I think we got to let go of the Knights of Ren. I think it's over.
You don't think that would be cool at all if they all showed up again? Because
no,
if one Ren dies, another Ren takes its place.
No, yeah, and the whole Ren thing. I really think that they're just detached from the whole thing.
Out of here.
Yeah, okay. They're all set. Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah,
what if you were to throw a random villain idea out for Mia Goth? What do you think? Do you think she's like an underworld villain, or do you think she's force sensitive?
I think because Sean Levy is an old school Star Wars guy, he's not, like I said last week, he's not going to make a Star Wars movie. He's one shot, and then maybe his only shot to make a Star Wars movie and not get some lightsabers in there.
Yeah, his
He's
golden
got
ticket.
Yeah, exactly. He's got to get a lightsaber in there somehow. There has to be magic, fantastical elements. So I'm thinking she's going to be some sort of supernatural, powerful person. Or on the other way, anytime I was trying to predict of like post First Order stuff, she'd be more like a monarch or an evil queen or something like that. But I think he's going to go the fantastical route, and there's going to be some sense of supernatural powers. I don't think it's going to be a Sith revival. I think Sith are going to go away for a long time, but it'll be something different that feels a tinge familiar. Like, is it Force lightning, but it's not a Sith? And is it she uses the dark side? She blends versions of the Force. She found the ultimate balance. Who knows? But I think they're going to go the supernatural route. I don't think she's just going to be some sort
Like a
of
Night Sister? You think she's coming down from the Night Sisters?
I don't know about that. Because I feel like Filoni's like, it's my territory. Like, you
Don't touch my Night
territory.
Sisters.
Yeah. So I just think that it being some sort of crime boss thing wouldn't be enough. And the Mandalorian touches on that a lot. The underworld stuff, the Maul series might even touch on that as he gets into approaching Crimson Dawn. So I don't know they're gonna go the crime boss route. I just think I could see Sean Levy. He likes to go with the fantasy side of things a lot. So I think he's gonna go that angle with his villain too, especially if Ryan Gosling is not, and he's protecting a kid that's Force sensitive. You gotta have something in terms of the big bad or big hero that has that Star Wars element of it with the Force in some way. So that's what I think. But
I don't think this kid's going to be Force sensitive. I think that's been so done that it's
like
like
Grogu. You're right. Yeah.
the nephew stole something that's hers, or has a map that she needs. Cough, cough, Luke Skywalker.
Oh, MacGuffins.
Like,
yes.
yeah, I think it's got to be that, because the Force Center. I keep saying Force Center. Hey, Force Center guys, I keep saying your name. What up? Shout out to you guys. The Force sensitive thing is just, it's been done, especially with Grogu right now. I can't see Dave Filoni being like, yes, please. Also, do this in your movie as well. And I don't think Sean Levy would do that. I think it's been done.
Yeah.
I know that the initial response in our conversation here amongst ourselves, other people online, reporters, etc., it's easy to jump to the, hey, the nephew must be force sensitive because it's Star Wars. But it just seems like it's already been done. So that's why I'm thinking MacGuffin. I'm thinking like this kid did something stupid, caused issues, then he's being chased and he runs to his uncle to be like, I need to get out of here, help. And then it's not tied to Rey at all. Because Sean Levy said very specifically, this is a standalone movie, its own adventure, not tied to the saga. It's its own thing. It's just in Star Wars universe. So I don't think they would tie it back to Rey. I think he's trying to make his own thing, his own stand, and try to be like, I'm going to either succeed or fail on my own.
Yeah, I don't buy that tie-in either necessarily.
Yeah.
I still think Ryan Gosling is using a lightsaber in this movie though.
How do you pitch this movie to Ryan Gosling, who had Star Wars sheets, and be like, yeah, you get to be in it, but you don't get to have a lightsaber. You aren't Force sensitive. You are just like a guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
and
his
he was
first
wearing the
question was
never
probably
tell me
like,
the odds. So like he's maybe Han Solo-y, which he's pumped about, but
I also don't want, like, when you think of Ryan Gosling, you think of that sort of wise ass good guy, sort of with the scoundrelly swagger, and he's charming and that sort of thing. Like, if they just write him a Han Solo type role, it's gonna be pretty stale. Like, I hope
it's gonna be Crazy Stupid Love, basically. That was a Han Solo-y type character.
Yes,
with the heart of gold. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious what we need to learn more about it, but I'm curious what they came up with. But I just hope it's not just what we think, where he's going to be this sort of like rogue, charming Han Solo type. We'll see. But that's basically it for most of the news. So now we are going to have a really cool dose of one of the most popular segments in TRB history. Lacey, let's fire it up.
I fear nothing, for all is as the Force wills it.
Time for Will of the Force. You guys love this segment. We do too. Before we get into it, there's a way that you could take part in this segment, and that's by supporting us, not just from liking this episode, commenting, subscribing, writing reviews on audio platforms, which really helps us out and helps us people to find us. But if you want to support what we're doing here and be a part of our community, you can head over to patreon.com/TRB podcast. Starting at just $5 a month, you get to take part in stuff like this in Will of the Force, where we ask you your input on questions for the show. You get a shout out on the show. And then as you go up in rank and in tiers, you support us more. You get more perks. You get to be part of our Discord server. You get to come to watch alongs with us, special merch, etc. There's just so much there. And you're supporting us, what we love to do, which is podcasting. We've been doing this for 7-8 years now. It's something that's near and dear to us. It's a dream of ours. It's made us who we are today. And you guys are helping us accomplish that. So thank you so much, first of all. Second of all, let's get into it. So Will of the Force is the segment where we propose will they, won't they scenarios, situations, if you will. And then we give our answers and discuss accordingly. So kicking it off, we have a Patreon submission from Commander Joey. What up, Joey? How's it going, man? He asks, will the original trio of Han, Luke, and Leia appear on screen again in a future Mandoverse show or movie? And if so, will they be recast, CGI, or a combination like they've done so far, which is a combo with Luke, with Mark Hamill and someone standing in and CGI. So I'm going to put this one on you first, John. Will they appear on screen in Mando stuff, and what are the options? How will they appear?
I'm going to stick with what I've been saying on this, and I don't think we're going to see that happen. If you remember in Ahsoka, Leia was mentioned off screen and C-3PO showed up to deliver a message for her. I really think that's the avenue they're going to approach with Leia, especially in the Carrie Fisher timeline. Because, doing the little kid Leia is one thing, but, they didn't recast her in episode 9 for a reason. They wanted to honor Carrie Fisher and make it solely Carrie, and somehow JJ gave her this massive arc in a movie that she was dead for. So I love you, JJ Abrams. But and the recent comments from Mark Hamill, it almost seems like he doesn't even want to come back and do like the Mando help stuff. He seems like he's finally like done. And Harrison's been done for a while too after The Force Awakens. So I just don't see them doing that. And it seems like Star Wars is finally ready, like we're talking about with Starfighter, to leave this pocket of time. As amazing as it would be, it's sort of like that Jurassic Park line, like, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that's how I'm sort of feeling about Han, Luke, and Leia now. Let's sort of leave that there. If you want to do animated, like we've been talking about, like in between the original trilogy, there's a lot going on, obviously. They went to Crate, I believe, at one point. Go for it. But live action and doing like the CG representation of the three of them, especially with Carrie Fisher being dead, and I don't know. It just sounds like it's not a good idea to me. So I'm just saying, Joey, I'm not here to burst bubbles or anything, but in my opinion, I don't think that they're going to do that.
First of all, this is a great question, Joey.
It is a great question.
I think it's a common thing that a lot of us as Star Wars fans are constantly talking about. I think one of my biggest gripes with the sequel trilogy, as with many people, is that we never do get to see them back together. We see Han and Leia together. We see Luke and Leia together, kinda. Not really. But we never see them back together, and it's heartbreaking. And it was one of the things that really bothered me, especially growing up with the original trilogy, is that we didn't get to see them be together once again, or like see that kind of resolved.
Not to interrupt, But we may have joked about this before because we have been doing this forever. But you know that moment in Last Jedi when like Luke rolls up and they're like, Luke is here to save the
I thought it was
day."
him. That was such a hype moment for me.
Yeah. And then he sees Leia and he gives her the dice. So I'm like, the three of them are together, sort of, in that moment. But then it turned out he wasn't there. It's like, ah.
I know. I remember the first time when I watched The Last Jedi the first time, that when he showed up, I totally missed all the things people claim they picked up. Nobody picked that up the first time, that he had shorter hair, that he was with a certain lightsaber, he was dressed a certain way.
The footsteps, the footprints was the one I think I called bogus on.
I noticed that, I think, the second footprint. I think he does it a couple times. Like there's a second foot that like he drags and you're like, oh, wait a second. Like they're really showing it to you. But yeah, when he rolls up and walks out, I remember there being tears in my eyes. I was so excited to see them back together and to be like, oh, Luke and Leia, like they're going to, everything's going to be great. They're going to be back together. In the next movie, we're going to be on an adventure where they're like leading the rebellion or the resistance. And it just got totally taken from me in the worst way possible. And not only that, Rian Johnson was like, and then I'm going to kill this guy. So crushing your dreams, enjoy. And that's just one of the problems I have with that movie, which is understandable. Everybody has their own opinions about it, but I am a very big Luke girl here, have been my whole life. So that movie kind of crushed me. That being said, back to your question, Joey, there's nothing more that I would want as a Star Wars fan than to see the three of them together again. I don't think it's going to happen because they're not going to recast them. I think they're done with the CGI stuff unless you like see them from like back of their head or something where they're like not really on screen. I just think they're not going to touch it. I think them having Mark Hamill and Luke in The Mandalorian as part of it, stand-ins, etc., was their send-off for Mark Hamill to end on a good note of, hey, your character died, but you got to come back and play him at the height of his Jedi-ness.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think they're going to touch it. I think Disney, especially now more than any other time in recent years, is very cautious on the view from fans. And they've been fumbling a lot with a lot of different franchises, cough, cough, Muppets, cough, cough, that I don't think they're going to touch this kind of stuff right now.
Can I cough for a second?
Sure.
For the sake of a tangent, cough, cough.
Yeah.
The Galaxy's Edge Luke Skywalker,
Looks
not working
rough.
out for me. It's not
The
working
hair
out
is
for
so
me.
bad.
There's just something about it, and he's too much of the like stoic monk Luke, where he's like, "Hello, child." I'm like, that's not really Luke.
And then you have Mando next to him, who's like this badass guy who's like kind of hot, even though you
Yeah.
don't ever see him. And then you have
Yeah.
Luke next to him, and you're like, that's kind of insulting to Luke, because Return of the Jedi Luke, when he rolls up to Jabba's palace, is like one of the most attractive things he's done in the whole series. And that's the one they have show up in Galaxy's Edge, and he looks like the hair is not good. Like you complain about the Chewie at Galaxy's Edge and how like it doesn't look right.
It
That
doesn't.
the wig needs to be brushed. It's got to be, there's something not right there.
It looks like Dorothy Hamill. Just and I know the irony there because the last name Hamill, but
yeah,
yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
Joey, I don't think they're
Yeah.
going to touch it. I think that, like we've said, like you've said, John, animation is the way to go. I'm 100% behind an animated project with the three of them. Go on an adventure, get a really good voice actor for each character. Unfortunately, Mark's voice is too old now. Like he did that Forces of Destiny. We've talked about this, where he just sounds like too old.
many cigarettes.
Yeah. Or just older. Like I don't sound the same that I did 5 years ago. It's just you grow, you age, etc.
You sound exactly the same as you did 5 years ago.
Do I? Not at all
Probably.
different?
Yeah. I sound the same too.
I feel like I've become more confident in my stances, but I probably sound similar. Yeah, whatever. I'm just saying as you get older, your voice changes. That's all I'm saying.
Joey's like, look at this can of worms I opened with this question.
Joey, you're the best. All right, next question. Will Star Wars ever get another Oscar nomination for acting? Womp womp. John, go ahead.
Well, it'll be 50 years since, no, well, almost 50 years since Alec Guinness was nominated, and I believe that was the last one. I'm gonna say, man, I'm gonna say no. I don't think Star Wars actors are gonna get nominated for an Oscar, even though the Oscars are trying to get more into the entertaining box office type of stuff. I think the Academy just overall doesn't really like George Lucas, therefore nothing connected to George Lucas, and they still see Star Wars as below them from an auteur perspective. So I don't think so.
I agree with you. I don't think Star Wars will get another Oscar nomination because I'm going to be honest. I don't think there's been a performance so far that deserves one movie-wise. I haven't seen one that I would be like, oh, yes, that's Oscar worthy. I mean, I think people online say like absolute perfection. I've been that person like, oh, this is so good. But like, is it the level of Oscar? I don't know. I mean, it is when
Harrison
I see
Ford
it.
in Empire was like the closest for me.
Sure. I'm saying currently, like in the current space we're in for Star Wars. Now, we've talked about it on the show when Ryan Gosling was announced. Like, could Ryan Gosling be the Oscar nomination? Maybe. They love Ryan. They love Ryan in the Academy. He did the whole thing with Ken and the whole musical performance, which I think is the best musical performance they've ever had, actually. Martin Scorsese was like losing his mind in the audience.
And also, like, Hugh Jackman, the dude has chops, but like that in the car, that monologue they give him in Deadpool and Wolverine, like that was like heavy, big time stuff. Like
it was.
The fact that they were able to do that for Wolverine inside a Deadpool movie, you never know what Sean Levy and team are going to cook up for Starfighter.
Yeah, so I think we've said it before. I think that's kind of the closest one right now that we could see happening. I think Mark Hamill in The Last Jedi might have been another option, especially with the ending kind of monologue with Kylo Ren was a close one. But it's tough. I think Star Wars is definitely a movie and a franchise that is praised for its music, of course, its special effects, its costuming. And I think pop culture movies in general, whether it be like Harry Potter or any type of Marvel movie, Black Panther was like the closest. You guys know how I feel about Top Gun Maverick. That thing was nominated and I was like rooting for it. I was like, this is our moment to get some type of pop culture movie to win Best Picture. And that didn't even win. And that was like the movie of the year. So unless there's some crazy, crazy, heartfelt acting like Mia Goth, maybe, who knows? It could be her villain turn that we've seen it happen with Joker, that Oscar happens. But I think we will see awards this season, or nominations at least, for Andor.
Oh yeah,
but that's
definitely.
TV.
They're pushing hard too, as they should.
They're doing the 4-year consideration events for. They did it for directors. They did it for SAG. They did it for writing. I think Andor could score some awards for live action television for Star Wars.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure if you're going to see that for the Mando movie. I don't think Pedro's getting an Oscar for. But they might get the stunt work one, because the stunt work Oscar is going into effect by the time that Mando's around. So hey, maybe we could add stunt work Oscar to Star Wars, because they absolutely deserve it. Brendan Wayne is the what's the word I'm looking for? The vibe of Mando is due to him. Like the way he walks, the way he carries himself, the way he fights is all the stunt groups.
The embodiment.
But I feel like the persona of Mando is Brendan Wayne. So he could win an Oscar for his stunt work, which they're going to be putting into effect. But yeah, we'll see, I guess. Fingers crossed that it gets the representation and acknowledgement that it deserves. I thought Solo should have won for special effects and whatnot for the Kessel Run alone, but
should have won Best Score, should have won Best Picture,
got
Best
snubbed
Actor.
so hard. And some of the stuff that they choose, you're like, come on. And then you hear like the stories this year where all the people that vote, they're like, I don't even watch the films. I just vote based on what I think. So then they put in some rule that you now have to watch everything. And they've already put out interviews with anonymous sources saying, well, all you have to do is press play on it and leave the room, come back, and it'll be done. And I'm like, don't you want to watch the movies?
Aren't you in the industry? Don't you love movies? Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Next question comes from General Drum Jedi Mike Rumori. What up, Mike? He asks, will we see a battle between Maul and Vader in the Maul animated series? John, what do you think? I know you're super pumped about this series. You've been talking about it.
I am excited about this series. Mike, I don't know what you think, but I don't think we're gonna see that. And my reasoning behind it is it's Maul's series. You don't want to all of a sudden throw Vader in there and have him be overshadowed in any way. And also, if they do battle, like Vader can't lose that fight. Like they already have him losing to Ahsoka. Well, standoff, but sort of losing to Ahsoka in Rebels.
Like a draw.
You can't. Yeah, and Obi-Wan messed him up again in the Obi-Wan series. Like we can't keep messing up Vader. Then it's like Vader kind of sucks, huh? So. So then on the flip side, you're not going to have Vader roll up in Maul's series and have him beat Maul, because then what does that do? You know, that devalues your lead protagonist, for lack of a better term, for that series. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think it would be amazing to see, and I still think they should make one of those Marvel versus Capcom style Star Wars games again, where you get to pick whoever you want and have them battle it out, Mortal Kombat style or Street Fighter style. But in this series, I don't know that we're going to see it, and I kind of hope we don't for those reasons.
I would love to see this, Mike. I think it would be so epic, but I hate to be this person that's agreeing with John this whole time. Sometimes this happens.
We agreed
guys.
on all three, yeah.
I'm sorry. Sometimes it happens, but sometimes these questions fall into common sense. And this is one of those common sense things that, from me, I'm coming from a marketing angle. Like, would it be easy to market this show with Vader? Yes. But I think he would overpower and overshadow Maul. And if you're looking to make the focus on Maul and to remind people why Maul is so awesome and epic, you're not going to have Vader be a part of this. This is Maul's story. So let him have his moment. And I think that, like you said, John, I don't think Lucasfilm wants to overuse him. Now, that doesn't mean that Disney doesn't want to overuse him, because they'll use him in everything because they just want to make money. But I think Lucasfilm, and especially Dave Filoni, is more cautious on where they're using Vader. But again, if this does end up happening, it's going to be epic. But
yeah.
I don't think it will. And last but not least, last question is, he recently said no to appearing in an upcoming Rey movie. Oscar Isaac, by the way, was in New York City. For those people that don't know, he was signing autographs outside, I believe, was it the Andor event where he hosted it? I think it was.
Yeah.
He did like the hosting, moderating for the Andor panel for one of the episodes in New York City, and he was outside signing autographs, and someone was filming him and said, "Hey, are you going to be in the Rey movie?" And he like paused and looked at it, and he was like, no. He had also previously said, don't Disney Plus me if I need a new house.
Oh, God.
He said several different things. So anyway, he recently said no to appearing in the upcoming Rey movie, but will Oscar Isaac's Poe Dameron appear in Star Wars Starfighter, which takes place 5 years after the rise of Skywalker? So going back to the beginning of this episode, tying it back together, will Poe meet up with Ryan Gosling? John?
Oh, ladies first. I feel like I've been going first all the time.
I know, but then I'm like answering, and then it's like back and forth. Anyway, okay, I'll go first. I do not think Poe Dameron will be in this. He will not. I know that they said some characters will show up. I just don't see Poe Dameron being one of them. I think they're more likely to throw some droids in there. C-3PO, Chewbacca, because it's easy and it's easy to market. Everybody knows Chewbacca. I think they're going to save Poe Dameron for the Rey movie for him to come back.
Interesting. I'm going to say, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he will. Yeah.
Really?
I have thoughts on why I think that's possible.
Okay,
So
go
just
ahead.
now, I preface this by saying I think this is a very low chance in terms of odds of it happening. But here's my thing about it. Starfighter, obviously, who was the best Starfighter pilot in the sequel trilogy? It's Poe Dameron. So you got that obvious box there. But number two, Oscar Isaac was supposed to be at Star Wars Celebration Japan. He was supposed to have his own panel at Star Wars Celebration Japan. Why would Oscar Isaac just have his own panel at Star Wars Celebration Japan just to talk about being in the sequel trilogy? Like, something about that just felt a little random to me.
You think they were
I
going to
had
bring
this
him out too?
I have a feeling he was supposed to be there and he was supposed to come out with them after when he said some rumors are true, some are not. And then they would have had him walk out and have his like Daisy Ridley moment that he's going to be sort of a part of this
I
and be
mean,
the
it does
tie
make
to the.
sense because he is a.
There's more.
Okay.
I did some research. Now,
You
people
do
call
like
it
some good
Googling.
research.
Yeah. I said, has Oscar Isaac worked with Sean Levy or Ryan Gosling before? And he has worked with Ryan Gosling before in the movie Drive in 2011. He was his co-star
He
in
did.
that movie.
Yep.
So there's a connection there as well. I could see the star power of Ryan Gosling, and maybe they kept they kept in touch. And he said they called him and said, "Here's this idea. You want to come back?" And that was the thing that maybe pulled him back in. So I'm just tossing those ideas around as a possibility because they did say sequel trilogy characters will appear. I think most people's brains went to Rey. We just talked about it in Resistance Report about, could that Starfighter movie lead into the Rey movie? It still feels like John Boyega is distanced right now. There were rumors about him showing up in Japan. He had said he was going to. There was no trace of him there. They have that.
I bet it was a
Finn-
money thing. They wouldn't
Yeah.
pay for him or something.
And they're already doing post Rise of Skywalker stuff with Finn and Jannah in that comic series that they're doing.
The book.
So to me, we know what they're doing with Rey. They're already doing stuff with Finn. Nothing with Poe. And all of a sudden he's supposed to go to Celebration Japan. Sean Levy surprises everyone and shows up at the Mando panel with Ryan Gosling to reveal Starfighter. Plus, he's worked with him before. It's called Starfighter. I'm just saying, I'm tossing out there as this is more possible than I think people think because he said no about the Rey movie. So I'm just going to go on a limb, even though the odds are against me, but never tell me them anyway. Oscar Isaac will appear in Star Wars Starfighter as Poe Dameron.
I actually love all this evidence. It does make sense. And then going back to the video I had brought up earlier where he does say no, he pauses and says no to the Rey movie. And I wonder if his brain was like, I'm not in that movie, but I'm in another movie. I'm not in the Rey one. I am telling the truth, but I'm in another one. Wink, wink. Because there's something about his mannerisms when he answers that there's like an undertone of something. That just might be that he's charming. But to me, I just read it as like, there's something going on there. He's not telling the whole truth. I would actually love this. I would love for Poe to have, some more screen time and to really get to show more of his piloting skills because we see him in The Force Awakens doing incredible things. And then he just becomes whiny in the Last Jedi. And then him and Rey have this like weird will they won't they relationship. And then he's like with Zori Bliss, which maybe Zori Bliss makes an appearance in Starfighter.
And you have to imagine if Poe was the leader of the Resistance by the end and they win the Battle of Exegol. I mean, this guy's getting lofted into who knows what heights in terms of whatever the next order of government in the galaxy is going to be. Poe's going to be an important figure. He's not just riding off into the sunset. Like, oh, I just saved the galaxy. I just took over this job as leader of.
He's a general, yeah.
Yeah, he was a general, but also like the general. And then this is only 5 years later. Like, Poe's doing something. And I just feel like because we know what's going on with Finn canonically, they're doing the comic. We know what's going on with Rey. They're trying to work Daisy Ridley back through one or multiple movies. Haven't heard a peep on Poe. and then I'm just connecting the dots based on Celebration, based on them working together in Drive, and then based on the fact that it's
Interesting.
Starfighter. And who
It
was a
would
better
make
Starfighter than
sense.
Poe? Yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense that he would be that would be the reason why he was at Celebration. Because I know when they announced him, you and I both were like, okay, so where's John Boyega and Daisy? And we know Daisy was shooting a rom-com. Can't wait for it. And John was kind of saying he was going to be there at New York Comic Con, but then he didn't show up. Maybe they didn't want to create confusion and have the three of them together. So then they were like, well, we only want Poe there. And then Oscar couldn't do it for whatever reason, scheduling, what have you. But it would explain why, like you said, he was the only one that had a panel. And I remember being like, why is there no TFA panel? Why is Daisy not there? Why is John not there? Why is only Oscar
Because
there? Because Disney does stuff like this. They don't want to distract, so they will just keep it in the lane that they're in. And and an example of this would be 2016 with Rogue One. They brought everybody out for Rogue One. And then for the Sunday panel, they had Alden there to talk about Solo. And then they had John Boyega to talk about Rise of Skywalker and like what was next for Star Wars.
Yeah.
But that was it. They didn't bring Daisy out, and they were in London. They didn't bring anybody else out. They just brought John and Alden.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of my favorite moments was still when John Boyega was like, look at his face. He looks just like Harrison. Like, oh my God. Like the smile, everything. He looks just like Harrison.
It's so devastating, the whole thing.
Yeah, like John Boyega was like, I can't even look at him. He looks just like Harrison. But they were very focused, Disney and Lucasfilm, but definitely Disney, that the weekend was for Rogue One. They brought all the people out. Diego was doing all the interviews. Everything was Rogue One themed. They had a teaser trailer, everything. So I could see them being like, look, we know Mando's going to be big. We know some other, but like Starfighter is going to be the announcement of the weekend. So we need to bring out all the stops for that to distract from the other things like what's going on with the Rey movie? What about the Lando project?
Also,
what about all
Lacey,
these other things?
Don't forget, remember how short that panel was?
It was so short because Jon Favreau forgot some slots.
Favreau skipped over some stuff, but
Yeah.
also I wonder if there were a few minutes that were supposed to be designated for the return of Oscar
For
Isaac.
Poe.
I don't know. We're getting wild with it, but
we are. But at
thought.
the same
It's a thought.
time, it's like you
Yeah.
can't help but pull the connection a little bit of,
Yeah.
hey, could this have been? Because for so long, you and I were like, why is only Poe going? Especially me as the TFA person. Why was
Right.
Poe only the one there?
Only Oscar, who seemed the most like, well, Boy was vocal too, but he's sort of made peace. Oscar has never alluded anything to the possibility of coming back. Boyega at least said, yeah, if you get JJ and Kathleen Kennedy and we sit down, maybe. Oscar Isaac has been no. And then all of a sudden he's doing his own panel at Celebration Japan. Yeah.
And then he's moderating Andor panels.
Yeah, it's very interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. And you heard it here first, folks. So I'm just gonna say Oscar Isaac returning as Poe Dameron in Star Wars Starfighter. Bang.
Well, maybe we should get to some more questions. What do you think?
Yeah, are we done with Will the Force?
We are. That's it.
Oh, well, let's get to their questions then. Jeez.
Yeah.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Midichlorians mean nothing because anyone can learn the Force if you work hard enough, Anakin. Anyway, Ask the Resistance. It's time. So we put out pitches on X, on Blue Sky for Star Wars questions we can discuss on the show, and you send them in and you never disappoint. So thank you to everybody who sent in a question. We appreciate it very much. And now you're going to get a cool shout out to the entire Resistance broadcast audience. And here we go with the first one, who no one's ever heard of. Andrew Staley at Andrew Staley on Blue Sky. What's up, buddy? Hope you're doing well, man. Andrew said, for the 50th anniversary in 2027, how will Lucasfilm and Disney celebrate? Will it be primarily an April-May focus with Celebration and Starfighter, or will it be a year-long celebration of 50 years of Star Wars? So, Lacey, we're going to throw it to you. You love celebrating. You love Star Wars Celebration. You love Star Wars anniversaries. Is it going to be a whole year celebration for Disney and Lucasfilm with Star Wars, or is it going to be truncated to that period of time when the movie comes out in Star Wars Celebration?
I thought you were gonna say you love Star Wars. I thought that's where that was going, your statement, but it didn't go there. Hi Andrew. Hope all is well. Miss you, bud. I think it's gonna be a year-long thing. They've done it with other celebration or anniversaries. They've done like a year-long, like it's the year of Empire, which sadly happened during the pandemic, but I think you're going to see year-long stuff from all the different brands, Hasbro, etc., with its own little logo. They did the 50th anniversary just for Lucasfilm, so you don't think they're going to celebrate? I don't mean that in like an aggressive way, Andrew. Don't you think that they're going to celebrate for a year long with the biggest film of all time in the franchise? I think they're going to do big panels at Celebration. That's going to be the celebration to be at if you ever considering going. I'm already nervous, anxious 2 years before getting tickets because it's going to be just so crazy. I mean, we're already talking about planning stuff for that. So I can only imagine that Disney has this on their radar and they've got all stuff for that year. They're going to do stuff at Celebration. They'll do stuff at San Diego. They'll do stuff at D23 if D23 happens. It's going to be a year-long thing in the parks, special events, etc. Like they're going to go all out. You see how Disney treats their own anniversaries at the parks. I could not see this going any other way. So no, it will not just be April, May. I think April, May, the focus will definitely be on Starfighter and Celebration, like you have said in your question. But I think those are just pieces of the full year. I'm already tired thinking about what that year is going to be like. But at the same time, I am so excited. I use the meme all the time of Daisy Ridley talking to someone on the red carpet where she's like, I'm really nervous and I feel like I'm going to throw up, but I'm also excited. That's me. John?
Yeah, that's a good answer. Like, I wasn't sure what to think about this, but I started thinking about like all the exclusive 50th anniversary collectibles they're gonna make and how they're gonna definitely push that through past May to make sure it gets to Christmas time, and make sure you get your favorite Star Wars fan in your family the 50th anniversary box set of all 9 movies on original blah 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 or something. It's they can just think of whatever they want and they're
gonna do a vinyl
on it, and
record of the
so
music and like
I
all
think
that. They're
even
probably gonna have a concert. Yeah.
just from a collectibles and merchandise and that standpoint alone, it's going to be a year-long thing leading up to the holidays. Because Celebration, like, it's big for us and it's big for the people that go, but for people who aren't dialed into Celebration, who are the larger part of the general Star Wars fandom, like, Celebration doesn't mean anything to them. They're just like, oh, it was this event and all the diehard fans go, and then 2 days later we learn things they learned and blah blah blah. Go to Celebration though, and once you go, you'll be like, oh,
you'll never want to not go, and that's the problem.
Yeah, that is. And then with Starfighter, like, I had thought, and maybe this was something they were thinking for a while, and I had been saying I thought the episode 10 would happen and it would be released around the 50th anniversary, and it would be like the relaunch of the saga and Rey will be in it, blah blah blah. And maybe that was the plan because they did announce the movie 2 years ago. But 4 years would have been plenty of time to get that done. But now it's Starfighter and it's a standalone, so I don't think they're going to wrap the 50th around that. And maybe they re-release the movies in theaters leading up to Starfighter or something like the original trilogy, maybe just A New Hope, who knows.
I think just A New Hope will be re-released.
I think it is going to be a year-long thing without a shadow of a doubt, because 50 is different than 40. 50 is different than 25. 50 is different than 60. 50 is just one of those classic
They're going to get Harrison,
milestones.
Mark, George, everybody.
One last hurrah. Yep. One last bow to the crowd. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a year-long thing for sure, Andrew. Great question, though. All right, next we have Living Lambo at Living Lambo on X. And they asked, which sequel trilogy character do you think could best lead a multi-season show leading up to the events of TFA the way Andor did? Man, a sequel trilogy character that could lead a multi-season show. I don't know. Do you have any picks off top of mind, Lacey?
I mean, Poe is the obvious choice just because he's very Andor-esque. But I
Yeah,
feel like that's an easy answer.
yeah.
I honestly would love to see a Kylo Ren show. Of all the terrible things he did, that sets it up of like how
That's
Snoke
the
got into
answer. Yeah,
power.
that's it. It's Kylo Ren. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the whole Luke thing and all that. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think that'd be my answer too. I'm with you. Poe would have
Mhm.
been my other choice, but I know they covered him a lot. He had his own book.
I'm
He
thinking
had the
Poe just because Andor just happened. Like that was the first thing that took it.
bloodline,
Yeah.
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 But yeah, Kylo Ren, I think would absolutely be the coolest. Like, why was he called the Jedi Killer? Like, let's see that.
Who did he
Like, they give,
slaughter in that vision Rey had? How connected is he to Rey? That
yeah,
kind of
because
stuff would be
even
answered.
Star Wars Resistance gave us the closest thing, which was like Kylo Ren rolls up and he like talks about how they're killing this village of people and stuff like that in Star Wars Resistance, like
Yeah, he like
the
murdered
animated show.
children. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Kylo Ren, Ben Solo is my answer too for sure.
Yeah.
Let us know what your answer is though, Living Lambo, and thank you for the question. Really appreciate it. Last one here we have Anthony Sunrise at
Ooh.
Provorius, and Anthony asked, "Is the era of live action Star Wars shows over now that Ahsoka is all that is remaining?" I am what remains. Is it full throttle back to movies only? No, I don't think so. And we sort of like gave our thoughts on this last week, Lacey, but they're gonna make more Disney Plus shows, but they're gonna do it the right way, which is see what catches on with the movies and then trickle it down, right?
Yeah. I guess. Is Anthony asking, is there anything after Ahsoka?
Like
Is
he's
that
thinking they're done with making live action Star Wars series, and it's gonna be back to all movies.
it seemed that way from the discussions that Tony Gilroy has had in all these interviews and roundtables he's done. It's like, yeah, they went crazy with Andor $650 million. They let us do whatever we wanted. That it seemed like it was Kathleen Kennedy being like, this is the last hurrah, enjoy. Um, but again, we don't know what's going to happen when she steps down and someone else takes her place. Right now, Ahsoka's all we have really to see what's next, and we know that that's going to then branch into a Mandoverse crossover movie with Dave Filoni. Now, is Ahsoka going to be in that? I think so. I think that that's kind of been the setup since 2020 when Kathleen Kennedy at Investor Day announced they're doing this big, massive crossover event. I think that this has always been the plan for that. Um, I would really want a Skeleton Crew season 2. Like, I really want one.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I don't think it's gonna happen, and I think that Disney definitely has pivoted to animated TV shows because 'cause they're easy to produce. Not in the sense that people that make them aren't talented, I'm saying, like, just from production, like, they're just easier to make and probably cheaper to make than live action. And then they wanna focus on movies because those have the biggest return on the
Yeah.
investment of producing. Um, yeah, I think that Ahsoka is all that remains at this point.
Yeah, I think for a while, I think more series will come. I think we'll see what Starfighter does. What characters do they introduce in Starfighter? What really catches on with fans? What becomes the next great character out of that? And maybe that turns into an idea for a series. And like you can do that with these new movies you're making. So I think they're gonna, instead of trying to create for Disney Plus and graduate to movie, they're going to make the movies, and what works off of that, they'll see that there's more meat on the bone to tell stories on Disney Plus. So I think, yeah, I do think it's going to be a hiatus for a while, but I don't think we've seen the last live action Disney Plus Star Wars series. But thank you, Anthony, for that question. Thank you, Living Lambeau and Andrew, and everybody who sent in questions. We appreciate it very much. Anytime, if you want to send in a question to us, just tag us on social media or use hashtag AskTheResistance with your post, whether that is on Blue Sky or X, or if you want to email us, resistancebroadcast@gmail.com. However you want to send it to us. But we thank you all very much for that. But that does take us to the end of the show. A lot was talked about. So we hope you enjoyed our takes on the news, the casting news for Starfighter, and what that could mean for that movie and its future. An awesome round of Will of the Force. Thank you to Joey and Mike on Patreon for your questions. We appreciate that so much. Way to get it on the show, boys. And thank you all for listening and watching and being a part of TRB. Like we said at the top, please subscribe, tell your friends, spread the word. However you enjoy TRB, we thank you very much. And it wouldn't be a TRB without a special shout out to our generals and spice runners on Patreon. Thank you so much to Generals Carmelo, John RISI, Jedi Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Dani, Mike Rumore, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, Colin Cormier, Stephen Garrow, Sachi, Darth Snips, and Arman Rojas. And the Spice Runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gelner, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, THEFORTWORTHIAN, and Brian Smith. Thank you all so much. Gilleran, where can people find you to chat about all these awesome things we talked about today?
People can find me on social media at Lacey Gilleran and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran. And if you want to find a way to support us outside of just the podcast or the Patreon, you can head over to weirdbrothers.com where we have a coffee, Resistance Brew, that we worked on with them, and it supports small business, our podcast, and they also do a lot of stuff for veterans, which is great. So you can just search Resistance Brew or just head over weirdbrothers.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, for me, Johnny Hoey on X, Johnny Hoey on Blue Sky, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies. We just put out an episode on Collateral, Tom Cruise playing a bad guy. And then for us, TRB Podcasts everywhere, and we'll be back with you next week with a new episode. And then Monday on Nerdy and Nice, hopefully you're listening or watching Nerdy and Nice, we are going to react to all the Superman stuff, the trailer, the interviews, the first looks, all of it and more. And so be sure to check out Nerdy and Nice, our other podcast under the TRB banner. It's on its own podcast platforms, and the video is right here on the TRB YouTube channel. But that's it for us. We hope everyone has a wonderful week. Have a great weekend. Hopefully sunshine where you're at. Been raining a lot in our neck of the woods. But until next time from us here at the Resistance Broadcast, we'll see you around, kids.